first time I confessed something, I didn't know it was confession. So I'm in a psychiatric unit and I'm talking to my friend, which is in chapter 4, and he's desperate for darkness. He's very troubled and he thinks that death would be just like turning the TV off. But I'm desperate for light, and we have conflicting opinions. I began to tell him the things about my own darkness and that I didn't want to live in that. I wanted to live in light. So my first experience of confession was almost by default. It was through listening to somebody else's desperate pleas to, he wanted to die, and sadly, he later took his own life. Confession allows me to find out who I am and what I really am, not a persona that I want to pour out there, something in my own sin that says I'm bigger and better, or even not as good as I am. You know, my self-esteem low. Confession allows me to be who I really am and to see who I really am. So I felt within that confession, I felt like I was learning about myself and I was becoming a lot freer. I was putting a point across that I really thought was truth to somebody else, and I was seeing myself differently. In that context, I wasn't anxious. There's other times when I've had to practice confession where I have been anxious and I have been agitated and I've done it anyway. But in this original context, I wasn't. I was just free to be who I really was. And a freedom did come for me from that and helped me to step forward into the recovery life that I chose. I felt different. I wanted light. My friend wanted dark. He wanted just the lights to go out. I wanted the lights to come on. So my confession led to the light shining onto me so I could see who and what I was. His led to an early death. So the fruit initially seemed to allow questions in the other person. It seemed to spark him questioning himself about his own thoughts about himself. And also for me, the fruit in me was that I knew I wanted a different life. I knew I didn't want to be stuck. So confession gave me a freedom that wasn't there before. And I think long term it was learning from the experience that the more authentic I am in how I feel and what I say and what I've done and how I communicate with people, then the freer I become and the easier it is to interact with other people on a very real basis because they know who I am. They're not afraid. I'm not pretending. And I imagine myself sometimes as just being like glass, and you could see everything in me, everything. Now, I'm not there yet, but that's how I'd like to be. I'd like to be so transparent that people could see what I was thinking, what I was feeling, and what I was doing. And to some people, that might be a very scary thought. But for me, it's something that I'm striving towards. I want you to see what I am, what I'm thinking. I'm not afraid, but I'm not there yet. There's a lot more confession to go. So when we take the biblical stance of confessing to one another and be healed, we're talking about ourselves, God, and another human being. So humility comes from all three, not from one. So if I get on my knees and I pray to God and say, I'm so sorry for what I've done, I did this, 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 and this, that's very nice, but it's still in secret. When I confess to another person, it opens up a whole new humbleness that wasn't there before. And that is an authentic type of confession, a biblical and a truthful type of confession. And what it does is, people used to be afraid of me because of my behavior and the things I did or the things I said. And confession takes all the fear away. And people become more compassionate and endearing towards you, and they tend to trust you more. But when you're not, you're still hiding, and people kind of keep you at arm's length.